What role did art or architecture play in the daily lives of the ancient world?
During the Shingoku Jidai, important architecture would be the castle walls surrounding if you're a defender during a siege or if you're an attacker, an obstacle to overcome as you fought to become shogun. Art during this bloody age was the sword and armor of the samurai. Samurai wore elaborate sets of armor suited for a museum more than a battlefield. Very ornate and colorful, it is a beautiful representation of the mass deaths that would occur in the quest to become shogun of all Japan. The sword was a beautiful work of art. Many see a sword and think it's brutal and just a tool for killing. Well, this is only half of the truth. To samurai, the sword symbolized their honor and were amongst the most finely crafted weapons of all time. War was a way of life. In this presentation, we will be showing you the arts of war such as castles, samurai, swords, and battles.
Hello all, this is Joe, and I will be your guide for this portion of the video, which also happens to be my favorite part of history, the violent part. Let's be honest, battles are some of the most interesting parts of history, and Japan during this time was full of them. For the sake of time, we will cover three major ones. The fourth battle of Kawanakajima was the fourth, obviously, out of a series of 5 battles fought between the armies of Takeda Shingen of the Takeda clan and Usugi Kenshin of the Usugi clan. This battle stands out because it produced the most casualties. To summarize the battle, otherwise we'd be here for a long-ass time. And unlike me, you guys have lives. Shingen's army was on the verge of obliteration until a small portion he had split off flanked Kenshin's army and attacked from behind. Kenshin's army began to rout and flee. Shingen, instead of chasing them down and killing the fleeing Usugi troops, was too tired and let them escape to fight again. A near disaster turned into a glorious victory for the Takeda clan. Next, we have the Battle of Anagawa. Oda Nobunaga and Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogun, squared off against Asai Nagamasa and Asakura Yoshikage. The battle was Nobunaga's opportunity to destroy his rival, Yoshikage. Under the guise of correcting Yoshikage's disrespect to the shogun because he did not show up for a dinner at the shogun's house, Nobunaga amassed an army joined by Tokugawa and set off for battle. The fighting between the two armies was close quarters and brutal, in which thousands were killed. Nobunaga and Tokugawa's armies won the day. After the battle, Nobunaga massacred an entire Buddhist monastery as a warning to those who would defy him. What a great guy. Lastly, we have the Battle of Nagashino. This one makes me particularly upset because it was planned and executed very poorly on behalf of the Takeda. The belligerents were Takeda Katsuyori of the Takeda clan and Oda Nobunaga and the shogun. Takeda Katsuyori, being a massive idiot, charged his cavalry into a defensive wall defended by firearm-wielding troops. Brilliant. As you can imagine, the charge did not go so well for Takeda and his cavalrymen. It was a disaster and his army was destroyed. What a shameful display. Once again, the Nobunaga Shogunate alliance was victorious. Thanks for your mandatory attention. Moving on.
Hey everyone, it's Guillermo. Today I'll be talking about Japanese castles. One may not think that castles would be considered as an art, but if you live in the age of constant warfare, then you might change your mind. To someone living in this age, castles' walls must have been beautiful. These castles were constructed primarily of wood and stone. These castles were first introduced in the late 16th century. That is when these heavily fortified structures were built on a massive stone base so the castles can withstand attacks from the latest weaponry. Also, some castles were used as luxurious architecture for militarist rulers to impress people who might cause trouble. These castles were originally placed in a strategic location such as routes, roads, and rivers, and these moats were created by the diverting mountain streams. Some of the castle's moats would be filled with water only at times of attacks. And the new type of defensive architecture were made of stone, and that's when stone castles came into use. In the interior of these castles, they were decorated extremely lavishly. These castles had a famous tea room covered in gold leaf, and other castles had amounts of golden ornaments on their exteriors. In the beginning of 1615 through the end of 1868, Castles started to lose their main purpose because of peace. That's when these castles turned into luxurious homes. Well, that's a wrap of Japanese castles.
The armor samurai warriors would wear was beautifully crafted and ornate. Their armor was a symbol of their honor, as was their weapon. The armor was made of hardened leather and small iron plates. The helmet would often have an ornate crest to not only make it look fancy, but intimidate enemies. Menacing-looking masks were also worn as an intimidation factor to scare enemies. Samurai were nobles and their armor reflected this. However, the common foot soldier, or ashigaru, also had armor but not nearly as protective or ornate. The samurai lived by the code called Bushido, which means the way of warriors, and it represents the ideals that dictate the samurai way of life.
Katana swords were one of the traditionally made Japanese swords that were used by samurai warriors during the feudal era in Japan. For a samurai, a katana sword was more than an ordinary weapon. It was a prized possession that was passed down from generation to generation, from father to son. A katana sword was considered to be an extension of a samurai's soul, and because of that, the unity between the katana sword and samurai wielder was sacred. Samurai believed that the sword should only be drawn under dire circumstances. The ability and mentality of a katana sword is for it to cut sharply, not to bend, and not to break. This is why the katana is considered to be the world's strongest cutting tool. The katana is specialized to cut. When creating the katana, the blade has to be forged so that it can hold a sharp edge, but not to break during battle.
Takeda Shinjin was the clan leader of the Takeda clan until his death in 1573. He is known for his military strength and his superb leadership. Shinjin led his troops into many battles, including those against the Yusenji, Kenshin, and Kawana Kimjima. He also had successful campaigns against Oda Nobunaga of the Oda clan and the Tokugawa shogunate until his death from illness in 1573. Born in February of 1530 in Ichigo Province, Yusenji Kenshin would become a powerful warlord and leader of the Yusenji clan. The Yusenji Takeda conflict would be one of the most trying times. The series of battles of Kawajima, notable the fourth battle that would cover earlier, would see his clan struggle against the Takeda for control of Shinano province. After this battle against the Takeda, he spent the rest of his life fighting a new rival, the Hojo clan. Yusenji Kenshin was a man of learning and poetry as well as a warrior. He died in 1573. Oda Nobunaga was born in 1534 in Aoi Province. He was a warrior and a statesman who helped to overthrow the Ashikaga shogunate and ended years of feudal warring. Nobunaga would unify half of the provinces in Japan under his rule. He would become a vital dictator whose systems of government stabilized the land and would establish the conditions that would unify the country in the years following his death in 1582. The leader of the Tokugawa shogunate, the shogun being the military leader of all Japan. He was born in 1543 on Okazaki province. He was the ruler of the last shogunate Japan who would have, together with Nobunaga, his expanded power and influence. After the death of Nobunaga, Tokugawa sought to seek more power in conquering the Hojo clan. After defeating the Hojo, Ieyasu was an undisputed master of Japan. He would hold sway over the shogunate until he retired, and even then he still had a massive influence over the new shogun until his death in 1616.